We just watched one of the most unique experiences in the history of sports. And I'm talking about the Caitlyn Clark experience. And it's gone on nonstop. The Caitlyn Clark experience has been nonstop since last October, early November. And then the clock rolls into the NCAA tournament. And by the NCAA tournament, I was like, this girl's the biggest star in sports.
These words perfectly capture the weight Caitlyn Clark has been carrying since early 2023. From dominating college basketball to becoming a household name in sports, the pressure on her was relentless. So, when Caitlyn and the Indiana Fever fell short in the WNBA playoffs, fans were left stunned. How could someone with her talent and drive lose? The truth is far more complex than it seems, and in this video, we're diving into the real reasons why Caitlyn Clark's WNBA playoff run didn't go as expected. It wasn't just about missed shots or tough opponents. There was much more going on behind the scenes. Let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture. Caitlyn's rise to stardom didn't just happen overnight. She'd been carrying the weight of being a top athlete long before the WNBA playoffs.
February, March of 2024. It's like, holy cow, she's the biggest star in all of sports, and she's a woman. This is very unique. No woman's ever been asked to carry this burden. No, it's never happened in America.
This wasn't just hype. Caitlyn was legitimately outshining athletes across both women's and men's sports. But that kind of spotlight brings immense pressure. She was tasked with being the face of women's basketball, something no female athlete had experienced on this level before. When the WNBA season started, Caitlyn was already emotionally and physically drained.
And then when you throw on the animus and the jealousy and the media being against her and all the legends of the game, what was the girl, Lynette Woodward? She ain't break my record. I was playing with a real size basketball. She wasn't. All of that. And it's like, oh, wow. And then obviously you have Angel Reese still trolling her and the people in the media being uncomfortable. And Paige Beckers is really the best player. And Paige Beckers, she understands her white privilege. Caitlyn Clark doesn't.
From the NCAA tournament to the WNBA draft, there was no break. And to top it all off, she had to deal with the Olympic snub, where many believed she deserved a spot on Team USA. But the real issue wasn't just the back-to-back schedule, it was how Caitlyn was thrust into a bigger conversation, one that wasn't just about basketball.
And then by early May, she's playing WNBA games, and the momentum just keeps going and going. And then she gets snubbed for the Olympics, and then, all the hatred from Cheryl Swopes and everybody in the WNBA, it just all keeps building and feeding on itself. She's having this incredible deal, and people are sitting out here asking her questions. I forget the guy that asked her the really stupid question, and she just said, hey, look, her answer wasn't these exact words, but it's just like, hey, I just want a ball. I don't want, and then WNBA players got upset. We don't have the privilege of just playing basketball. We have to care about these social issues.
Caitlyn found herself not just in the middle of the WNBA, but in the middle of a league with its own political and social agenda.
She's playing in a social issues league that wants to wear shirts that say vote, wants to scream Black Lives Matter, wants to push some sort of political agenda. She just wants to ball. She just wants to be the best basketball player. And she's caught up in this political deal, and she's caught up in this racial discussion, and she's dealing with Nike, an organization that got her on a bargain basement deal and is telling her, well, we're gonna wait to promote you until we're done promoting Asia Wilson.
For Caitlyn, her focus has always been about the game. Yet, as soon as she stepped onto the WNBA stage, she was dragged into conversations about race and privilege, discussions she had little control over but couldn't avoid.
And she's in the middle of all of these racial discussions that she has nothing to do with, wants nothing to do with, and then they're demonizing her fans. And these Indiana Fever players are all caught up in the middle of this too. They're all having conversations they used to not have because no one cared about the WNBA. And so these guys could go play their game in anonymity with very little pressure. No one really cared.
This wasn't something she was prepared for. How could anyone be? On top of the exhaustion of playing for nearly a year straight, she now had to navigate the politics and media scrutiny of the WNBA. The league itself is different from the men's game in that way, with many players speaking out on social justice issues. But Caitlyn, who has repeatedly made it clear she just wants to play basketball, found herself in the middle of a storm she never asked for. But this wasn't just about Caitlyn. The Indiana Fever as a whole were feeling the pressure. They went from a relatively low-profile team to having packed arenas and intense media scrutiny, all because of Clark's presence.
And now they're in this bubble. Every arena they go to is filled to the rim. There's all this conversation. It's all exhausting.
It's hard to play your best basketball when you're constantly in the spotlight, and the Fever were no exception. During that final playoff game, there were moments where it was clear the team was mentally exhausted. At one point, Caitlyn was tied up by the opposing team, and her teammates seemed to hesitate instead of rushing to her aid.
They're going to give their best effort. They wanted to win that game, but I think there was also part of them to just, let me get to Cancun, let me get out of this bubble. I need a break. They were exhausted.
The team was tired, and mentally, they were ready for a break. The pressure wasn't just on Caitlyn, her teammates were feeling it too. The Fever had to adjust to being in the national spotlight, a situation most of them had never experienced before. Before we continue with the video and my further explanation about Caitlyn Clark's situation, I want to ask for your help. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subs by the end of the year, so I'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe and help me out. Okay, let's continue. For Caitlyn, this wasn't just about physical exhaustion. After all, she's proven time and time again that she can handle the pace of a tough season. It was the mental fatigue that really took a toll.
For one straight year, everything, the weight of the world and all these political and racial discussions centered around Caitlyn Clark. And I look at last night's game and go, yeah, she's worn out.
The combination of physical strain, media pressure, and being dragged into political debates left her exhausted. By the time the playoffs rolled around, the fatigue was too much to overcome. It was clear that Caitlyn and her teammates were giving everything they had left, but it simply wasn't enough. Despite everything that went down in these playoffs, it's impossible not to respect what Caitlyn Clark and the Indiana Fever accomplished this season. They fought hard, and Caitlyn proved she's no pushover. Even when the odds were stacked against her, she showed up and gave it her all. While the Fever's playoff run might not have ended the way fans hoped, this team has laid the foundation for something big.
I have to tip my hat to them for the effort that they gave, the way they rallied, the way they fought, the way Caitlyn Clark revealed that she's not a punk, the way that Erica Wheeler revealed, I got your back. Because that's I've been waiting all season.
Players like Wheeler and Aaliyah Boston stepped up, showing that they're ready to fight alongside Caitlyn in the coming seasons. The chemistry is building, and this team has the potential to be a serious contender next year.
Hats off to Christy Sides, and it's not the perfect coach, but a young coach that helped them get through. And even if they fire her, which I kind of hope they don't, that she needs to be given a chance to grow with this team. But if they fire, she will have laid an incredible foundation for the next coach. It's kind of like Mark Jackson, what he did for the Golden State Warriors. The next coach is going to have it much easier because there is a foundation of real chemistry among a handful of players that are very important. Obviously, I think Caitlyn Clark and Kelsey Mitchell have real affinity. I would put Aaliyah Boston in that, obviously Lexi Hall, obviously Eric Wheeler. You can add some athletic pieces around now a core foundation of players that are all moving the same direction, all have Caitlyn Clark's back, will know what they're getting into next season. And now maybe you could work on the details.
Caitlyn Clark's journey is far from over. The playoff loss may have been a bump in the road, but this is only the beginning. With a strong team behind her and the lessons learned from this year, the Fever are poised to come back stronger. So, what do you think? Was Caitlyn Clark really just worn out, or was there something more to this playoff loss? Let me know in the comments below, and before you go, make sure to subscribe for more WNBA Reports content.